Good afternoon. Welcome back. It's always dangerous to have the panel right after lunch, so we will promise to be invigorating and stimulating and keep you awake. So I hope everyone is enjoying Climate Week and we're back fully in person. It feels amazing. I've been to every Climate Week except for the COVID period, and I've been coming to UNGA for 22 years. So it's amazing to be back in the city, even with all the traffic and you can't get a cab, but it's great to be here. My name is Rick Parnell. I'm a nonprofit executive advisor to Verra's leadership team. I've been working in the climate space for about 25 years, including as COO of the United Nations Foundation and CEO of the Foundation for Climate Restoration. So I've been in this space, as I said, for a while. Before I introduce my incredibly distinguished colleagues, I'd like to ask someone you all know to say a few words. You know Dirk Forrester as the president and CEO of IETA, but he's also a member of the Verra board of directors. So we call him boss. So Dirk.
And I'm not going to take a lot of time because the real content is arrayed before you here, and really all I want to do is set a little bit of a framing for this discussion. Whenever I'm talking to people about what's going on in voluntary markets, I generally talk about how we're going through another one of our cycles of improvement, because we've been through a few of these before, and there are a few people in the room that go back to the period where we didn't know that you were supposed to call one of these things a methodology, or you didn't know what an issuance was or whatever, because you sort of made it up with each contract that came along. But we've come so far in the last 25 years, and we're going through another step change now. And in this step change, it's happening in a context of a step change globally on what countries are supposed to be doing, because every country has a contribution to make to the Paris Agreement. So it's a much more diverse and complicated universe to make sense of, which makes events like this all the more important, right? We come together and learn so much from each other about things that we're learning out in the marketplace. But for Verra, I think it's a time of massive amount of change with the advent of the Integrity Council and the voluntary carbon market working on a threshold standard on upgrades associated with CORSIA, with Verra's own quality improvement that, again, we've been through a few times before, but we're going through it again with gusto. It's all in the service of the Paris Agreement, right? At the end of the day, it's all about enabling people like you to channel investments in a way that you have confidence into climate mitigation and ultimately maybe climate adaptation, but into the mitigation efforts that we so desperately need. And when you look across the universe of tools available for mobilizing private finance, especially from developed to developing countries, there aren't that many alternatives available. You know, I reflect on the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and how much money is there for mitigation in developing countries? Like zero, right? We've got this massive investment that's going to be very important for the US, but it doesn't have a lot to offer to the developing world. And a lot of the low-cost mitigation potential that we need to harvest if we're going to actually achieve net zero, and most of the removals probably are in the developing world. And that's where I really place such a value on the role of voluntary markets, because they are the best tool that we have available now for helping to channel some of that capital and increase business confidence so that it can scale even higher. And I think that's what you're going to learn about today with the new era for Verra is certainly those of us on the board, but I know the team at Verra are committed to the set of improvements that enabled you guys to scale investment. And so I don't want to take anything more. I'll just close my remarks there, but I'm interested in listening and learning as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dirk. In addition to Dirk from the board, I know that Mark Stewart, you're here somewhere. Yeah, please stand. And Mark Stewart, I'm a member of the board of directors. If I've missed anyone, I've tried to keep up if any other board members are here. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for being here, Mark. Before I make the introductions of the panel, I just want to say, get your questions ready. We're going to do a presentation and then we're going to have an open Q&A. There'll be microphones that will be floating around. So we'll look forward to that. So let me introduce our panel. Judith Simon is the president and interim CEO of Verra. Judith brings to the role over 30 years of executive leadership in the corporate sector. Judith joined Verra in February of this year and has been an incredible change maker in just the past 6 months. Toby Jansen-Smith is Chief Program and Development Innovation Officer. Toby has been with Verra for over a decade and leads the team responsible for the design and evolution of Verra's programs. Hillary Navarro is Verra's Chief Communications Officer. In her just 4 months with Verra, Hillary has fundamentally changed the communication strategy at Verra. Many of you may have seen that in some of the strategies that we've been putting out. Robin Ricks is Verra's Chief Legal Officer and Policy and Markets Officer. Robin and his team are responsible for policy development, government relations, market development, and of course, legal affairs. So now let me turn it over to our interim CEO and president, Judith.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thank you all for being here. It's exciting to have this opportunity to share with what's going on in our incredible organization. So for 15 years, Verra has been instrumental in enabling great things to happen around the globe, probably through many of your organizations, kind of similar to what Dirk said. It is our job to enable finance to flow to have an impact on the climate and sustainable development. We have revolutionized methodologies, we have set standards, we have solved some of the most difficult problems, and we have pioneered some solutions to change our fate. And it is an incredible legacy to work from, and that track record of success is going to set us up for where we're headed in the future. But we also know there is a critical need that is urgent, and we are not on track. And we heard about it today. How do we make sure we're doing all of the things? How are we enabling the entire ecosystem? And Verra has a critical role to play in it. The market is changing. It's an ever-evolving sector. There are new entrants. And with that is excitement and growth and all of these great things, but also there's fragmentation, there's confusion at a time when there needs to be streamlined, simple, focused delivery mechanisms. And so when you think about what Verra needs to do to enable a stronger market, we kind of stepped back and said, how are we going to figure out this longer term roadmap? Because we have an incredible responsibility and we take it very seriously. And so as we started to formalize this roadmap, we thought maybe we should just take a pause. So we had leadership change in our organization, which you're aware of, which is why I'm standing in front of you today. And we said, what if we just stop? And let's talk and learn from the perspectives collectively across the ecosystem. Let's talk to other standard setters. Let's talk to buyers and intermediaries, and let's talk to project proponents, and let's talk to other NGOs. And let's just truly understand what are the dynamics at play that we need to consider before we get too excited about our plans going forward. And so over the last 6 weeks, I have embarked on what I'm calling a stakeholder listening tour. And in this listening tour, I have met with and had conversations with over 35 organizations. Many of my team were on the calls with me. Sometimes they were bilateral calls, but I had open-ended conversations with 35 organizations so far. I'm not going to stop there, but that was all I could get done before Climate Week. So at the same time, we also, we had a webinar, so we were introducing and building excitement and trying to get feedback, welcoming insights. And we shared a stakeholder survey for the ones that I could not talk to initially. Create a survey where people could give us quantitative and qualitative feedback. And we weren't sure exactly what was going to happen with that, but we got over 500 surveys back. So we got this wealth of information and perspective and insights, and it was, some of it was just really rewarding to see. Verra is trusted. Over 80% of our participants in the survey said that Verra is a trusted partner. It's a credible partner. It is changing things for the better. But we also heard that there are opportunities for us to improve. And we're going to talk about some of those things today. And so our outline is I'm going to share what I learned in the listening tour. And then Hillary, Toby, and Robin are going to talk about, now that we've heard that, now that we've synthesized some of that feedback, what are the key actions we can take and commit to you, and so that you'll be hearing about how we are turning that into action. So these were some of the listening tour participants, incredible insight, perspective. I asked for really candid feedback and I got it. And I also just really appreciate the time and investment that we got from these participants. So if you or your organization is represented, I just want to say thank you so much. So let's talk about what we heard. So first of all, almost every conversation began with, let me tell you, we are a fan of Verra. Let me tell you, you are a partner. We could not do what we are trying to do without Verra's partnership. Now, yes, I talked to many stakeholders that are in our ecosystem, so let's just have that as a backdrop. But still, it was incredibly rewarding to hear. And they said, notwithstanding anything I'm getting ready to tell you, because you asked for candid feedback, just know that we're on your side. And also, at the end of the conversations, I would say more than 75% of the time, it ended with, we are in this together, and we will help you. How can we help you? Because I think we all realize that we cannot do this by ourselves. So it's about us working together in a collaborative way. So it was lots of support, lots of encouragement. The other encouragement we got was, please don't stop innovating. Please don't get gun shy with all of the criticisms that are happening. We still have major problems to solve, and we need Verra to continue to push the envelope, because the things that are at risk for the planet, for the biodiversity, for the, fill in the blank of all the important initiatives and areas that we're working on, we need solutions to those problems. And so please don't get gun shy based on what's happening today. I also heard that your success, meaning Verra's success, is critical for many of your organization's success. And I was so inspired by the work that your organizations are doing, and just know we want to do our part to enable that incredible work to happen. Because the other thing that just was so meaningful for me personally, because I haven't been in this environment very long, is just hearing the direct impact of the stories of the projects that many of your organizations are sponsoring and supporting and enabling. So I just, some of the stories I couldn't even tell my husband over dinner because they just made me so emotional. It's just so important. And so just know I got closer to the work, the communities that were impacted, the individual farmer who is making the decision about whether to, clear the forest and grow cattle and raise cattle, which my father did, or whether he didn't clear the forest, he just raised cattle. Or, do we leave the forest standing, even though that's not as lucrative for their family? But anyway, so I got to hear lots of stories, and that was really meaningful for me to understand, and just inspires me even more to make sure that we deliver. But with all this support and encouragement, we got a lot of feedback that we have got to improve our work. We have got to enable by having higher level of delivery mechanisms, higher level of service, improvements in our operational excellence. And so anyway, I'm going to go through some of the themes. I also heard, just before I get into the themes, these were the things where there was thread of feedback across every single person that we talked to. That this was like, these are clear. These are clearly things we have got to address. But there were also just incredible nuggets and insights and provocative ideas and suggestions about how we can improve and evolve and diversify, all kinds of great things. Know that I haven't forgotten those things if you were one that gave me that feedback. But what I'm just going to share today are just some of the high-level themes. So the first theme, loud and clear, is we gotta move faster. There's just too much at stake. And every day that we delay, there is something happening that is not positive. And so we've got to speed up our processes. We've got to improve our delivery mechanisms. We've got to move faster. And so that doesn't mean we're going to take shortcuts. It doesn't mean we're going to do anything other than create an infrastructure and capability to be able to deliver that at scale. So that's the first one, speed, efficiency, and scale. The second one was just give us some idea of where you're headed. How often are you going to update these methodologies? Can you give us some insight about what you're working on? Because we might have some ideas about how our organizations are going to evolve. So be more transparent. We thought transparency was about data insights and just making sure we are showing all of the science and everything, which we definitely want to do and enable the data insights from our registries, et cetera. But it was really more about forward-looking planning and having some transparency about what's going to be changing and when and how are you going to adapt your current methodologies as a result. The third one is around program impact and scientific integrity, continuing to raise the bar. And the other thing that I heard was, we love that you have a high bar. We think you have the highest bar, and it's okay if you keep raising it. Just make sure, and we want you to use the latest science, use the new technologies. Yes, things are changing and we can do this better. But at the same time, just give us some insight that that's what we're going to be doing, because it becomes a surprise. And learning and continuous improvement should not be a crisis. It should not create a crisis. It should not make us question everything we've done in the past. It should be a positive. But how we work together through that is really important. The fourth one was around responsiveness, service, and reliability. So I talked about this ever-growing sector, this evolving sector. Things are becoming more complicated. People have a lot of questions, and they're having a hard time getting answers from Verra because we're not easy to work with all the time. We're great when you can get someone, but it's like, how do you get to the service and get the questions answered that you need? We heard that loud and clear. And then the last one is around communications and engagement. How do we get more proactive? How can we show the impact stories? How can we have the scientific basis and the evidence-based impact analysis that we can share and use as we are having to deal with some of the media crisis? So a lot of it was around communications. So I'm going to go into those a little bit more deeply in just a second, but we pulled these five things into our three big pillars. And we talked about these big pillars when we were in our webinar. So for those of you who attended our webinar, we had over 700 participants. So some of you may have been in that. These were our three key pillars, but these new insights and the listening tour is now adding more specificity and clarity into what our roadmap is. But so our three things: operational excellence. Make sure that Verra is prepared to deliver at scale in a sustainable way the services and products and things that we are responsible for. We need to operate at a new level of performance. The second one is around program impact and scientific integrity. We talked about that. I'm going to bring a little more color to that. And then the third one is around accountability for us as leaders in the space. And so our accountability to our stakeholders, to the market, to the planet, to the communities that we serve. Okay. Operational excellence. These are some of the things I've already highlighted. Just want to bring a little bit more color. it's about speeding up the registration process, being clear and setting expectations about how long the process will take. There was this theme of try to reduce uncertainty, remove uncertainty in the marketplace, because uncertainty causes confusion and delays, and it's just not great for a market. And so anything that we can do to remove uncertainty in the process is critically important. We talked about being more service oriented and making sure that we're responding to queries timely. It was really difficult to hear that feedback and hear that sometimes we're really difficult to get a hold of. It feels like a black box. It feels like it's stuck in Verra, and we're not quite sure when we're going to get the answers we need. And so we definitely heard that, and we'll be responding. And then the whole digitalization effort. So it's about like, how do we enable not only just Verra's processes to be more streamlined and that we leverage technology and data, analytics, insights, perspectives, but if we develop this kind of infrastructure and platform that's digitalized, it actually enables all of your organizations to work at a higher level with higher levels of productivity and output. It's also going to help us with the quality issues. It's not just about streamlining and speeding up the process. It actually helps mistake-proof the work that we do. So that's the first one, operational excellence. The second one is about, I think I talked about this earlier, just be more transparent about where you're headed. Which methodologies are you working on? Which ones are going to be updated? How are you going to handle the current methodologies? Just be more communicative with your stakeholder community group so that we are prepared. This was change management is really just about making sure that we know exactly what the impact's going to be, that we're partnering and hearing the feedback. And then also just this collective desire that we all work together better. So it's like, how do we harness the collective energies and mobilize together, and that we might be able to accomplish more as partners than we can as standalone organizations. And then the third one was around accountability. So just click me one more time, that's fine. So more consistent engagement and partnerships, like do we have the right people at the table? There's many areas in the organization. Sometimes we're developing new methodologies, sometimes we're getting ready to change the program. Do we have the right people at the table? And just there was lots of feedback about opportunities to engage at a different level. We talked about being proactive and courageous and standing up to the criticisms, and that when Verra is not strong, it hurts the market and it impacts many of your organizations. And then the last kind of thematic was around just evolving from the voluntary market into compliance. And I think we heard a lot about that again this morning. So it was like an exciting and rewarding listening tour. We recognize we have a lot of work to do, and so we've got plans ahead that you're going to hear about shortly from Hillary and Toby and Robin. I just want to thank you all for your support, and I just look forward to working with you as we kind of tackle this challenge together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judith. I was on several of the Zoom meetings for the listening tour, and I can't tell you how invaluable you can see from the quotes it was for us to learn and for us to be ready to change strategies and do some of the things that you're about to hear. So learning, but what are the commitments that we're going to make? You're going to hear from Hillary, Toby, and Robin these commitments. And for those of you that came in a little bit late, we will be passing microphones around for Q&A. So we have several commitments to make, and then we will open it up for discussion. Hillary, you have the floor.
Check. All right, can you hear me? Hi, everyone. My name's Hillary Navarro, and I am Verra's kind of brand new Chief Communications Officer. I joined in May, and I'm not brand new to this space. I used to work actually with Robin and several other Verrans back in the UNFCCC days of CDM and JI. So I'm not brand new to the markets, but I've been out of the sector for a while. I came in with my eyes wide open. I knew the challenges that we're facing on the communications front. And just from a personal level, I want to say how excited I am to be here at Verra and to work with all of you guys on this. Today, my short role is just to explain to you what our commitments are around operational excellence. As Rick inferred, this listening tour is only as good as the actions that we're going to take to deliver on what we learned. And so let me just quickly run through with you the 4 commitments that we're making in operational excellence, and then I'll hand it over to Toby. So the first is on our multi-year digitalization initiative. Judith mentioned this. If you were in our stakeholder webinar back in August, you heard us talking about this. And hopefully, if you work with us regularly, you have seen some hints of the start of this. So in August, we released the Project Tracker tool, which is the first functionality of Verra's Project Hub. And then, excuse me, I have to look at my notes because there's a lot of names coming up. The next thing you can expect from us is the Follow Non-Permanence Risk tool. Then in Q4, we will add the digital project submission tool and all of the digitalized methodologies that will support that. And then after that will become the project location review. So those names mean nothing right now. They eventually will, but let me just tell you in short what we envision and what that means. It means no more PDFs. It means simpler project submission and tracking processes. And it means more tools to submit, more tools to support the submission of high quality projects. So stay tuned. We're not going to turn this ship in a day, but over time you will see us becoming more and more and more a completely digital experience. So the second commitment we have is around SLAs. That means service level agreements. We heard loud and clear that it's less the amount of time it takes and it's more the uncertainty around how long it's going to take. And so by Q1 of next year, we're already doing the analysis right now, streamlining things, figuring out what is realistic because we don't want to overpromise. But by Q1 2024, we are going to be publishing SLA targets, not only for Verra's review process, project review process, but also for stakeholder queries. So what this means for you is you will know when you submit your project, how long it should take, and you will know when you submit a question to us, when to expect an answer by. So stay tuned for those. The third commitment we're making, I'm personally very excited about, because this has been a pain point for my team. We are standing up a brand new team in Verra. It's a brand new stakeholder services team, and their only job is going to give you guys a face and a name of someone to talk to at Verra about whatever your questions are. And they will be responsible for meeting those SLAs that we will set and have in place by January. I feel like this is a pretty tangible area where we can make some really quick wins. And I know this has been a major pain point. So I'm very excited about that. The last thing I will just mention, and then I'll hand the floor to Toby, is that we are launching in January a validation and verification body performance management program. So if you're a VVB, you've likely already heard about this. If not, it just means that we're going to be taking a more active role in training and supporting VVBs to meet Verra's quality standards. And that is something that we're going to be standing up very early next year. I'm happy to answer any questions on those things at the Q&A section, but for now I'll hand it to Toby.
Thank you, Hillary. Well, it's a great pleasure to be here. I'm Toby Jensen-Smith. I am Verra's Chief Program Development and Innovation Officer. I've been with Verra for about over a decade, which makes me an old-timer here amongst this very vibrant, dynamic leadership crew and many others that aren't up here. Some of them are in the audience that you can hopefully talk to in due course. But it's incredible to be a part of this time and place that we are in Verra, having been with the organization for 10 years, and the new vitality, the expertise, and the commitment to basically serving the market, and to all of you, as was evidenced by due to this listening tour, that we very much appreciate the candid feedback, and we know we can and must do better in so many areas, and we're committed to doing that, and already are starting to act on those things, and you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts in the coming months and also next year. So my segment here is a little bit focused, or completely focused, on program impact and scientific integrity. So I wanted to share 4 main work streams and initiatives that we are launching to leverage the latest science and best practices to enhance our integrity at the VCS with our programs, but also for the whole voluntary carbon market. We feel we have a great responsibility to help lead and shape where the market goes and to address integrity issues and lean into some of these biggest challenges we all face. So the first work stream is around existing methodology reviews. As some of you may have seen that pay attention to our announcements and so forth and newsletters, last December, we announced that we would be doing reviews of all our approved methodologies at least once every 5 years, with the goal of ensuring that those methodologies remain harmonized with our evolving program rules, that they meet the highest bar for quality market initiatives like ICVCM core carbon principles, and that they incorporate the latest science and thinking. So we announced a couple of days ago, basically the timeline, the process, and the schedule for the review of all those methodologies, which we'll have completed in about the next year. All of our core methodologies at the VCS are about 50 core methodologies and that being reviewed and potentially revised as needed. One related thing to mention is in terms of transparency on methodologies, and we heard that in the listening tour, many of you want to know what's in our pipelines. Verra has an incredible deep bench of sectoral experts, many of whom in this room, like Sinclair, Candice Vinke, Julie Barudi, and others, and Take here, who are sectoral experts that are basically helping Verra and the market develop new methodologies, working with third parties and many of you here to unlock new activities and sectors for climate action. And in the past, that's been a bit of a black box, but we're committed to changing that. So now we are publishing the whole pipeline of all of our methodology idea notes, concept notes, and methodologies in the final queue for approval with brief descriptions and status, so you can see what's coming, you can plan your investments, businesses around it, and also think if there's other gaps you'd like to bring to us for methodology development. The second initiative is VCS Program Advisory Group, which we're delighted to be relaunching in a couple of weeks. And we have 20 new members in that group, including a few folks here in the audience. And that we are representing, I think now 13 countries across those 20 folks. And it's really the leading experts, academics, NGOs, auditors, project proponents, other market players, buyers, et cetera, that's really going to help inform the future of the VCS, including version 5, which is going to be a big step change for our VCS program. That'll be quite exciting. We'll be doing a lot of consultations around. Thirdly, RED, a big area, a hot topic that we've been working on under Julie Brudy's leadership in the back there, and a big team that is been working with many consultative bodies over the last 2 years to bring all the best and brightest thinking for how we can increase and enhance the integrity of project-based RED and start to better align that with government programs and efforts and other initiatives. And so that work has been ongoing for the last 2 years. We're finally at the point with working on the data and third parties to put together deforestation data, allocate that out to projects, and working with governments and others to basically launch that methodology in November before COP28. So it's going to be a really exciting moment for the RED space that I know everyone's been waiting for. And we'll really start to allow more adding up of all the accounting. It will reduce any potential conflict of interest, as well as better align with government RED Plus programs. So we're really excited about that. And it's in second review stage with the auditors, so on track for a November launch. And then finally, a research initiative, which will be kicking off in Q4 of this year. And that's basically us bringing together leading research institutes, academics from the global north and south through a suite of research initiatives that will basically look at how we can best assess the climate, biodiversity, and social impact of these projects and our whole portfolio, to both inform our work, assess the impact that it's having, and really guide the whole VCM as we all know, there's been a lot of different assessments out there, press and stories about different ways to assess impact. And one of the huge challenges is to actually determine what are credible methods, consistent methods you can use. And we see that across the rating agencies, where even across the top rating agencies, there's a huge difference of opinion how a given project might be rated. So we want to help and facilitate and collaborate with the leading thinkers there to sort of basically define, how do you assess these things? How do we incorporate that into our work and the design of our programs, their assessment, the auditing, and how do we support the whole VCM growing to its like tremendous potential that we have to unlock if we're going to really tackle climate change at scale. So hopefully this gives you a flavor of some of the things, just a snapshot of some of the current initiatives that we're launching in Verra to really take forward our responsibility as the leading standard setter in this space around integrity, not just for our own programs, but to make sure that the whole of the VCM thrives and flourishes and can deliver the kind of scale that we need. I will hand it over to Robin Ricks.
Thank you very much, Toby. My name is Robin Ricks. I'm Verra's Chief Legal, Policy and Markets Officer. In that role, as was mentioned, lead team is responsible for policy development, market engagement, legal affairs, and so forth. It's great to see so many familiar faces here, but also to meet a lot of new ones. And I felt really excited by this morning's discussion. I'm here to present on the third pillar that we're going to be sort of launching right now, which is one of accountability. And that's a sense of accountability, a sense of responsibility that Verra feels, and that I think we shared with everyone in this room about our duty. And that's to us as stakeholders, that's to the market, that is to people more generally, and also to the planet. And so I'd like to talk about a few of the work streams that we're launching in this area as we sort of help support this market, really, which is one of moving from the margins to the mainstream. This is a moment. I think this is a rare moment, and I think that this is an exciting time to be here and part of the market. So the first prong is really one of government collaboration. I think it's fair to say that the VCM grew out originally out of a response, out of not quite a frustration, but a sense that that more could be done, that there was a gap. Verra and other standards, other programs evolved in that sense, and I think we've been enormously successful, all of us, in helping to drive finance to particularly developing countries in a suite of areas of projects. That's being noticed right now by governments around the world. And that's a positive development. I think sometimes we hear talks or fears about nationalization risk or issues of interference, but really we see this as one of resource sovereignty. We see this as actually a positive sign that governments are taking notice, that they're recognizing the awesome power that the VCM has, that carbon markets have. And we are therefore we're stepping up our collaboration with governments. We've got 8 MOUs signed with governments around the world, whether that's for capacity building, whether that's provisions of registry services and so forth. And we're looking to conclude several more, in addition, of course, to the relationships that we already have with Colombia and South Africa. So please watch this space. It's an area for sort of rapid growth as we continue to sort of develop our relations with governments. Tied to that, and as I alluded to right now, is one of the concept of registry services. Verra maintains a piece of infrastructure here, the Verra registry, which is a really useful, widespread, widely used piece of market infrastructure that is actually a very powerful tool. We have, over the past little while, we've beefed up some of its security. We've beefed up KYC and money laundering and other sort of policies and issues around that. We are now looking to sort of really understand sort of what is the next step for that registry. What does the registry look like of the future? What changes can be made? What services can we offer to countries around the world which maybe may find it difficult to sort of launch their own registries or to do that? And so we're working in close collaboration with intergovernmental organizations, with private sector, and so forth, really to sort of help use the registry for what it can be. A third area of accountability, and we have an example here, is the Plastics Treaty, really as an example of one way in which we're working with intergovernmental policy processes around the world. Obviously, the UNFCCC Article 6 Paris gets a lot of the attention in airplane. We're continuing our relationship there. It's not just carbon, of course. It is also plastics. It is also the CBD. It is also other UN processes that are there. And one of these is the Plastics Treaty. Of course, that's something that's being negotiated right now within the INC process under UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program, and is an example where we are working as part of a broader broader initiative, really to sort of bring the concept of markets, sort of that sort of sense of accountability that we have, that sort of duty to sort of help share the concept of markets more generally, and that's what we're working on right now with plastics. The fourth area of accountability, and this is getting, of course, a lot of increasing airtime in the ICVCM process and elsewhere, is the concept of social and environmental safeguards and so forth. This is a growing area. We have beefed up the VCS program to require a greater demonstration of contributions towards SDGs. We have broadened out some of the safeguard requirements over free, prior, and informed consent. We're looking to expand that further into version 5. Also in this social and environmental risk tool, we do run a program, of course, SD Vista, about one of quantifying impacts of towards the UN SDGs, and just yesterday actually released for public consultation the Nature Framework, which is an asset class sort of under SD Vista, which is really aimed at sort of helping to drive finance towards biodiversity around the world. So in a nutshell, we're not stopping. We do sense a real sense of accountability, a duty. We have a position where we can contribute meaningfully to the world through the development of high integrity markets at scale, and we're more committed than ever to sort of pursuing that. Rick, back to you.
This is the awkward moment when the environmental communicator realizes she misspelled environmental on the slides. So we're just going to change the slide and be done with it.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Toby and Hillary, Robin, and of course, thank you, Judith. Before we open it up to questions, you've heard a lot about what did we hear? You've heard a lot about what are we going to do, and you've heard several commitments. I would say maybe the final commitment is that you will now be invited to quarterly webinars where we will give you updates in all of the commitments that we've made in an effort for even further full transparency. So I hope you will join us for those quarterly webinars throughout all of 2024. So do we have microphones? There we go. So let me open it up, and if you have a question, please give us your name and the organization that you're with. Kristen, all the way over.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sergey, and it's ICLRC, the company I'm with. My question is the following. We all know that there is quite a lot of ongoing discussions under Article 6, with respect to very general principles of how market works or should work, in particular like baseline, business as usual, additionality, and all these things. And my question actually is whether Verra is going to kind of take from what is the result of those discussions and kind of copy-paste that approach, or it will still have its own approach towards these things, and will create this double system, in approaches for like VCM under Verra standard and like Article 6 approach, and create this kind of issue. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there others that we can combine? Okay, Article 6, Verra's approach. Robin?
Hi, thank you. That's a great question. I think to answer that question, take a step back. In many ways, the VCM grew and flourished out of a sense that the international policy process just wasn't moving quickly enough, it wasn't ambitious enough, and really that's sort of what gave us the sort of the shot in the arm, and we've tried to move things forward. The world is now, I think the pendulum is, thankfully, through Paris and Glasgow and otherwise, is now coming back here. And such that we are seeing sort of that revolutionization back in the UNFCCC process of whether it's 6.4, 6.2, and so forth. I think a few observations could be made here which may be of relevance. One is that we welcome that process. We welcome the fact that the UN is moving forward with these two different options. The 6.4 is sort of the new souped up CDM/JI track 2. It's coming, it's back. We're going to see that sort of that option there, that centralized process, and it's one obviously that we're looking to for cues to sort of see how that's going to go. We're also obviously following with great interest 6.2, and we think that that's where really the VCS has a meaningful opportunity. I think one of the real breakthroughs of the UNFCCC process is the recognition that ITMOs, the mitigation outcomes to be transferred internationally, they don't need to be certified only through a UNFCCC process itself, but one that can be sort of done through other means. Whether that's the VCS or one of the other standards or registries, that's what we're seeing right now. Obviously, there has to be a minimum threshold of quality, but we do feel that it is necessary for them to be, and just to be very, very upfront here, we do believe that those sorts of international transfers do need to be certified against a set of high integrity standards, such as that's what's offered by the VCS. So I hope that that's a way of answering your question. What keeps us up at night, frankly, is a 6.2 that resembles a less stringent, a sort of almost an IET style approach. That's dangerous, and that is what Verra certainly is, with very, very sort of open eyes, looking at that process to see what's going to come out.
Kristen? There we go, right there.
Hi, Matt Beckwith with Verra Field Data Exchange. I want to tug on a couple of threads that came out throughout your presentations. One was fragmentation, the other was transparency and accountability. And there was a lot of discussion about what's happening inside of Verra. While that's important, you know, what's happening outside is there seems like there's just a surfeit of registries. And how do you think about creating confidence when, I think about offsets and insets, when there could be multiple claims on the same piece of turf? BCG had a report out earlier this month that there's a 95% price differential between the highest quality credit and the lowest quality, and the two most important factors are MRV and transparency. And so how does Verra think about that as part of a larger ecosystem where we need people's trust and confidence in order to be successful in the VCM market?
Thank you, Matt. Toby, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, certainly it's nice to see the innovation and the establishment of other standards bodies, other approaches, specializing in CDR and removal, specializing in certain sectors or approaches or technology processes. And I think that speaks to, you know, the potential of this market and new ways of doing things that could bring new transparency, bring rigor and efficiency into the system. Verra, from our side, we're committed to basically incorporating and always staying on the cutting edge of any of those developments. And we, of course, as you might imagine, because we're the largest standards body and we have a lot of existing projects, existing methodologies, programming rules, et cetera, that's what a lot of the market sees, and a lot of the new stuff we're working on is, you know, still is basically work in progress. Might even take a couple of years to come to fruition. You heard some of the things about digitalization that we're really excited about, both in terms of efficiency of the project cycle of digital methodologies, documents, automatic validation checks, and now scaling. We have a whole series of digital MRV pilots where we're working with RED, IFM, micromobility, energy and industrial sectors, and have these really deep pilots that will start to unlock the potential of new remote sensing technology, AI, ground sensors, et cetera. And that for us is going to be one of the ways that we can scale, as well as bringing more transparency and efficiency and integrity into the system. So those are some of the things we're working on in terms of our methods and making sure that what we serve is what the market needs. Like, for example, with CDR, as probably many of you noticed, we added a label in version 4.5 a few weeks ago that now distinguishes removals, VCUs versus non-removals. We're putting in place other ways that just make things more clear and transparent for market actors to dock into the kinds of credits or activities that they're interested in. So anyway, those are some of the things, just to say that we welcome what's going on in the market in terms of the rich evolution and flourishing of different standards, different approaches. We collaborate with many of those other standards bodies on the fundamentals of carbon accounting. And then we also innovate in different areas so that we hopefully collectively add different value and help move the market forward. So I don't know if that partially answers your question.
Thanks, Toby. Others? Kristen? So let's take all the way down. There we go. And then we have a second one over here. Okay, sorry, I didn't realize. I've got all these lights blinding me here. We will get to you, I promise. Great.
So compliance is a big issue, clearly. So how do you account for a compliance function in your organization? Is there one? Could you tell us a little bit about it and how it's structured?
Great. And second question?
Hi, Kevin Brown, Wildlife Conservation Society. On the question of the scientific integrity and impact, what is Verra's thinking in terms of its relationship to these ratings agencies, ratings startups, whatever you want to call them? I see Silvera and B0 are represented here today. Do you see taking in some of the techniques of those into some of the methodologies? And such, rendering them obsolete in some future, or do you see a role for them in the future in this ecosystem? What is Verra's strategy there?
Great, thank you. So compliance, maybe we'll start with Robin, and then scientific integrity, Toby, and we're going to make sure that we save the final question for our gentleman in the back.
Thank you. Compliance is I can address that question within the sort of the legal framework. So we do have within Verra sort of a compliance function, sort of multifaceted. One is with respect to sort of the I would argue the largest area would be one of the registry in terms of that we run sort of extensive KYC checks on account holders. Those are not just one time; those can be ongoing as needed with spot audits as necessary. We have recently. The board has just approved, these have been sort of done internally, but now these are sort of official, a suite of policies with the full alphabet soup, whether it's sort of anti-money laundering, anti-bribery and corruption, counter-terrorist financing and all that sort of stuff. Sanctions, of course, is an issue as well. We are still rolling that out to there will be more along with sort of a period of sort of socialization within the organization on a more formal level. We've also got internally sort of a whistleblower policy, which is in the employee handbook, and we are also hiring a compliance officer. We have a conflict of interest policy, which we run for a while. A lot of this is just sort of emblematic of the fact that we were a small organization, 20, 25 people, 150 now. We're building all those processes, systems under Judith's leadership, all of really sort of what an organization befitting our sort of current role is. I hope that answers your question. Okay.
And Kevin's question about integrity and the rating agencies. So yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's exciting for us to see the rating agencies, all the diversity of rating agencies take shape and use different methods with a lot of smart people and different analytics and new data sets. So we're working increasingly closely and growing conversations with most of, if not all of the rating agencies and figuring out how we best can collaborate. And I think it basically will play through two main tracks. One is this broader research initiative that I mentioned, which is like working with all the leading players, including academic institutions, researchers, and the rating agencies to figure out what are the methods that can be used to best assess climate, biodiversity, and social impact of these projects, especially the tricky sectors like RED and others with counterfactual baselines or other sort of challenges in terms of accounting for those emission reductions. So definitely, we're increasingly working closely with rating agencies as we'll be a part of this research initiative. And then in terms of methods themselves and the methodologies, yeah, absolutely. We are continuously looking for ways that we can best account for these different emerging or challenging sectors. I will say at the same time that we need to provide some level of certainty and consistency in what we're doing. So for example, in RED, when we're setting the activity on deforestation data and allocating that through a risk-based approach to projects, that gets set for 6 years because that's the baseline period, and the projects, the investment, the countries need to know what they're dealing with. But then after that 6 years, you can start to use new methods, and along the way you can improve and refine methods. So yes, it's exciting days for all of these sectors, and we look forward to kind of advancing some of the thinking and aligning with where the best science and accounting lands.
Thanks, Toby. Final question.
Hi, Anil Madhavapalli from the University of Cambridge. Just at 1,000 feet, Verra seems right now to be rewarded whenever you issue a credit positively, but not so when you deny a credit because it fails verification. So can Verra survive the next few decades? Because we're seeing some really positive moves towards digital projects and so on, but there's going to be lots and lots of incentives to make sure that you issue credits in order to meet your financial goals. Should you instead shift to a model that is more of a flat reward structure based on either positive or negative verification of projects?
Who wants that question? Robin, from a legal perspective, give us your...
I don't know if it's a legal perspective so much. I mean, I can offer some thoughts on that. So, I mean, right now, yeah, there is a sort of a flat fee for issuance, 20 cents per credit, as you know. I mean, it's an interesting question, right? I mean, what should the model be? Should it be a flat fee per issuance request? Should it be per credit and so forth? And where we've landed right now, I can offer a few explanations, and there's probably many powerful counter explanations as well. But let me try to answer your question. Well, one is that we know that the credits themselves obviously are monetizable per credit. So if someone is getting however many dollars per credit, one might argue that the fairest way is actually to tie it per credit. I mean, the credits themselves aren't given away on a flat rate; they're monetized. So that's sort of one argument. I think that could be raised. The other argument that I would submit to you is that there is a small scale versus large scale issue. If you have a single flat issuance fee or fee per project, you are going to penalize small scale projects. They have fewer credits, whereas the larger scale projects will pay what might be pocket change in exchange for their volume of credits. I can understand your point of view, and maybe it has been, you know, what you're saying is there a different model? And if there is a different model, I think it would be interesting to hear what that would be, one which avoids those two issues.
So as a follow-up to that, as Judith said at the beginning of the conversation, we want to continue to hear from you, whether it's right now in the coffee room where all of my colleagues will be, or send us an email or join us at the quarterly webinars. But again, on behalf of everyone and on the team, thank you for coming, and thank you for these great questions.